Crystal making is filled with secrets, part art and part science. It grew up in ancient lands, in Egypt, in Syria, and was brought to Venice by the Venetian traders at the time of Marco Polo. In the 16th century, a number of Venetian glassmakers migrated north and east and established themselves in Bohemia.
The Schonbek Company was founded in 1870 by my great-grandfather in what was then Bohemia. That was a part of the Austrian Empire. I think that's important. When people buy a crystal chandelier, they want to understand its history, its pedigree. They want to understand that it's the real thing.
In 19th century Europe, where Schonbek began, people of means lived opulently, collecting for their pleasure choice works of art and craftsmanship, surrounding themselves with exquisite furnishings. Then, as today, the owner of a crystal chandelier was a connoisseur of beauty, and at heart, a collector.
People really surrounded themselves in those days with very beautiful things. The whole concept of seeking out collectibles, pieces in one's home that would tell a story.
From the beginning, the Schonbek Company made its mark among the world's fashion leaders. In London, the Queen's agent ordered Schonbek crystal for Buckingham Palace. In America, Schonbek crystal found its way into the White House.
Andrew's great-grandfather was granted a patent of nobility by the Emperor Francis Joseph I, and attached to this patent of nobility is the right to carry a coat of arms, which is the one which we are still using today in our advertising of our product.
The growth of the business was interrupted by political events in, of course, Bohemia. Czechoslovakia is in Central Europe, and that was right at the crossroads of the Second World War, and subsequently the area was taken over by the communists in 1948. And my dad really was barely able to escape the communist takeover. He was a prominent capitalist. We employed close to 1,000 people at that time, and had he been there when they came in, it would not have been good. But he had the foresight to leave the country, and really came as a penniless immigrant to Montreal, a political refugee, and began a process right from scratch, scraping together bits and pieces to build chandeliers.
The company prospered once again, and eventually headquarters were moved to the United States. Schonbek grew to become the largest manufacturer of crystal chandeliers in North America, yet the company's design heritage remained deeply European.
Not every company that makes crystal chandeliers is a true manufacturer. Some are mere assemblers. That's not the case with Schonbek. We have our own foundry. We have our own tool room. We can create in 3 dimensions anything that a designer puts on paper.
You know, sometimes something very modern comes out of something with truly ancient roots. Such was the case with our Equinox design, where we went back to very elemental kind of star shape, and we arranged these 8-pointed stars into three-dimensional nesting arrays that create a geometry, a mosaic of light and crystal that really causes your eye to wander over its surfaces. You could look at one of these things literally for hours and always find something new happening in the chandelier.
Trillion is a Schonbek signature family. The inverted pendulogs on the column of a trillion creates a silhouette that is recognized around the world as a classic Schonbek line. What we did was totally unconventional. We took a traditional pendulog and turned it upside down. We used incredible technical innovation to achieve that, and it's something that has not been copied by anyone. When we turned those pendulogs upside down, we turned the industry upside down.
To achieve the high standards of craftsmanship that existed centuries ago, Schonbek today is a total quality company. Everyone, including production teams, gets involved in the design and critique of the product.
When we sell our product to a customer, our expectation is that it's going to be in their family for many generations. So, therefore, we want everything about that product to be perfect. We really pay attention to details. For example, in our glass arm units, as you step back, you'll notice that the wires virtually disappear that are inside the arms that are providing power to the lights. The reason this is we've taken a lot of care in acquiring wire that has a coating on it so that it matches basically the color of the glass.
My job is to take an abstract idea and turn it into something real. When the designers present us with a new idea, something totally wild that's never been done before, we make it happen. We provide the tooling, the jigs and fixtures needed to bend and shape, weld and rivet all the small component parts that go into making a completed chandelier frame. Schonbek chandeliers require a large amount of hand craftsmanship in their assembly. Oddly enough, it's our computer technology that permits us to make these chandelier frames with a high degree of consistency.
We aren't afraid to do something that may cost a little more or something that's very intricate. I mean, something that isn't thought of by other manufacturers. That doesn't frighten us. We have a great deal of technology here that allows us to do virtually anything.
Schonbek has a repertoire of some 500 original designs, and the collection is constantly evolving. But sometimes, a customer has a vision of a chandelier that doesn't exist in any catalog.
My responsibility is the custom department. Our motto is, "Your wish is our command." We build chandeliers of any size, shape, color, whatever the customer wants. One day we had a customer send us a picture out of a book. It was something of an 18th century chandelier, and they wanted us to make something that looked just like it. We took the aesthetic parameters of that, we combed the world looking for components, and we pulled all these pieces together to make something that came very close to what he had in the picture.
The more unique the design, the more complex the challenge, the better we're going to be at it. We can do custom chandeliers for residences as we can do them for casinos, hotels, religious institutions, you name it.
Even before Adolf Schonbek started his company in 1870, the Schonbek family had their own glassworks and were engaged in the making of crystal. This intimate knowledge of crystal, going back to the early 19th century, sets Schonbek apart. The types of crystal employed in Schonbek chandeliers include Strauss crystal, heritage hand-cut, heritage gem-cut, optic quality hand-cut, Swarovski, and the Venetian crystal that we call the Legacy Collection.
Strauss crystal is the premium brand of crystal that's produced in the world today. It is absolutely flawless in its execution. The facets are cut with razor-sharp precision, and the spectral qualities of the light passing through the glass is just spectacular. Designers often prefer the more subtle brilliance of hand-cut crystal, And this is a method of manufacturing that goes back centuries. The way that it's actually produced is that the artisan will first cut the crystal with an iron wheel, then polish it with a sandstone wheel, and finally use a bit of marble dust applied by a wood wheel to actually polish each facet of the crystal. Sometimes when you look at heritage hand cut closely, you can see the slight marks that come from the wood wheel, and this is a sign of real authenticity. Now this is a Bohemian French pendelogue. The shape of these pendelogues is derived from rock crystal, which was used in the earliest chandeliers manufactured over 400 years ago. And the molds for these pendelogues that we use today were actually in the possession of the Schonbek factory over 100 years ago.
Arnold Schonbek, Andrew's and Eileen's father, likes to say that a chandelier should be beautiful undressed, half-dressed, or fully dressed.
It's hard to overstate the importance of finish as an element in the design of a chandelier. For many, many years, chandelier design was constrained by a sense that it had to be a polished kind of finish, maybe a gold or a silver. We've really enjoyed breaking those rules in creating a whole array of new kinds of finishes. And what's new about these finishes is that they're old. All of them are richly textured. They're multi-hued, and there's nothing about them that's uniform. They look like they've been either hand-worked by the touch of a master, or that they've been worked over by time.
The juxtaposition of supremely elegant crystal and rough metalwork creates a whole new aesthetic that works beautifully with the new eclecticism.
Along with this, there's been just a new decorating freedom, where in the past there used to be very rigid, structured rules that this kind of a period piece of furniture could go with this kind of a wall treatment and that kind of a chandelier. People today want to be able to express themselves. They want their homes to tell a story of who they are. And crystal as something, on the one hand, out of the past, can be combined in so many interesting ways with things of the present, things from around the world, that it can speak in a new way.
One of Schonbek's newest ideas is retro crystal.
To copy some old designs is really not the right thing to do. Everybody else can do it. We have to be ahead of them and show them something which nobody else has seen before.
When you look at society around us, there's a need for something deeper, where people don't want stuff that looks new, they want stuff that looks real. And that's what we've done with retro crystal. The surfaces, the finishes, well, they look like they've been ravaged by the passage of time. The crystals also look very much time-worn. You have these pieces of crystal that are cracked internally. Taken by themselves, some of these crystal shapes might be viewed as unfashionable, deliberately unfashionable, yet put together with other also deliberately unfashionable shapes, bits and pieces of metalwork, you put it all together and you have something that really represents the height of a new kind of fashion. When we look at the Vivaldi design, you have unusual types of crystals, you know, not all precisely shaped octagons, but you've got little diamonds, you've got olives, you've got kite shapes framed in these very carefully configured Art Deco little frames. And yet they're right up against leaf motifs from the Rococo period and a very architectural kind of framework which has a classical look to it. In a very considered way, it does go about breaking rules. There's something about it that's inherently rebellious.
Our Versailles and Renaissance chandeliers harken back to Louis XIV, the Sun King. And the pièces de résistance in these pieces are actually the cut crystal spike, which is right at the heart, in the center of the chandelier. And what we've actually done is embedded a light right in that spike, which just warms the chandelier from the inside out.
On a typical Rivendell chandelier, there will be many thousands of these very precious beads, cut crystal beads, which were in fact developed for the jewelry industry. And you know, they're the kinds of things that one would wear in beautiful jewelry. And we've married them with incredibly intricate frame components, as you can see, which grow out of elements from nature. Each Rivendell chandelier is really a work of art. When you look at the Old World collection, as its name implies, this really defines the essence of what a traditional crystal chandelier is. All parts of the chandelier are made out of glass. This is a design that goes back to the 17th century. And yet, as is always the case, we've found new ways to do it that are quite different. Nevertheless, even my great-grandfather would be quite at home with the appearance, though we've done it in a way that he would never have anticipated.